Hello, I'm Gary Stearman, and this is Prophecy Watchers. Today's guest, well, you know him, and I know him, and I've known him for quite a while. His name is L.A. Marzulli. L.A., welcome back to Prophecy Watchers.
Always great to be here, Gary. Thank you, sir.
When you come, it's always an exciting time because you bring things that we enjoy sharing with you. And what you have brought this time is a new DVD, and I'm going to read the title, Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. Now, everybody's heard of the Shroud of Turin, and you might be saying to yourself, Shroud of Turin, you know, I know all about that, and what more could you possibly tell me? Well, there's a lot more, isn't there?
There is. The Shroud, I think, is the most studied artifact on the planet. I got that from Russ Brault and also Joe Marino, who are featured in the film. No one has ever been able to figure out what the shroud is, or that image that's on the shroud, because it looks like this when, you know, from the naked eye, when you stand back about 6 feet, you see the very faint outline of a man. And in 1898, Secundapia took the first photograph of it. So he takes these glass plates out of the wooden camera, and the first glass plate he takes out is the headshot. He wants to see what it looks like. So he's like this in his dark room, and he's got the chemicals, and he's looking at this thing. And this is the face, I'll use this one. This is the face that pops up. This is the face that he sees. And he almost drops the plate because that is impossible. So what we see in the shroud, when you look at the shroud, it's a negative image. And when you photograph it, it becomes a positive image. And this is astounding because, you know, skeptics go, a 15th century forger. How would a 15th century forger know that photography would be invented hundreds of years later? It's a straw man argument, in my opinion. So the Shroud of Turin is the most studied artifact on the planet. It is not a painting. It's not produced by a hand of a man. So what is it?
The more it's studied, the more it's validated. In other words, people have tried to deep six this artifact and say, oh, that can't be something from the era of Christ. And great scientists, mathematicians, people who know a lot about physics have tried to debunk the shroud, and they have failed time and time again. And so every time we bring out news of the shroud or anything associated with it, it lends to the validity that we had before.
Yeah, you know, just recently, Giulio Fanti, who, by the way, we interviewed in the film, came up with an article which went, you know, global. It went viral, talking about that the shroud, they've now determined that really it's a 2,000-year-old artifact. It's not from the 15th century. And, you know, the carbon-14 dating, we can get into that, but I've talked about that numerous times. The carbon-14 dating was taken from a very small piece of the shroud on the corner. And as we show in the film, and Joe Marino and his now deceased wife, Sue, they were the team that figured this out. They wrote a paper on it, and that led to Ray Rogers going into his laboratory. He had pieces from, it's called the Rhea sample, which was right next to the C14 sample. And lo and behold, it's not linen fibers, it's cotton fibers. So that's what skewed the carbon-14 dating and showed a 15th century, you know, forgery, but it wasn't. It was a repair that was done to the shroud.
Now, when you read the Gospel of John, and I'm looking at verse 6 of chapter 20 in the Gospel of John, where Simon Peter comes and enters the sepulcher of Christ, and he sees the linen clothes lying there. And the next verse, verse 7, and, as the King James Version has it, and the napkin, which is wrapped around his head. Now, that has come to be called the sudarium. Both of those articles of linen have survived to this day.
Astounding.
Now, that's a miracle.
Yeah. And the reason why they survive is because the apostles realized something was going on. And they, I mean, when you think about it, we talked about this off air, you know, Peter handled those clothes. The two Marys, Mary his mother and Mary Magdalene, they handled that linen cloth, and who knows how many people throughout the centuries. Be interesting to try to, you know, get DNA from it. Of course, you can't, because the shroud was basically scrubbed clean about, you know, 15 years ago, whatever, maybe a little bit longer. That's a whole other discussion. But it's in the Gospels. And people go, well, why would God do this and all this other stuff? And the shroud's a forgery and it's a trick of Satan. I mean, I've heard all these crazy arguments. No, it's not. It's God's calling card. It's forensic evidence of the greatest event in the history of the world, the resurrection of the fully God, fully man, Jesus, the Messiah. I mean, and no one, I remember as a young Christian 45 years ago, reading about the scourging, the whipping of Jesus. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I guess that wasn't that bad, right? I mean, I guess, why is he falling on the way to the cross? What was, why does he stumble? And when you look at the shroud, the scourging is so severe. The only place that they didn't get is right above the heart. Because if they scourged where the heart was, they could kill him. Or they want to kill him. But every inch of his body, front and back, is scourged, open wounds. So he's in shock. And they place a helmet of thorns over the head. So he's in shock, there's no doubt about it. He's bleeding out. Every inch of his body is screaming in agony. And finally, when he's pinned, it's not in the palm of the hand, it's like this, and it goes at a slight angle and comes at the back of the wrist, and that's precisely what the Shroud of Turin shows, the wound. It also shows the mixture of blood and water coming out, the bilirubin coming out from the side wound. I mean, forensically, it is 110% accurate on every single level. So how was that done? How was that done by a 15th century, artist or whatever, when there's no paint or no pigment or no dye or no ink on the shroud? So we're looking at a mystery.
And I'm sure you know that recently they have tried to analyze the type of radiation that left these imprints on the cloth. And it is a sort of radiation that is not very common at all.
And this brings us into the holy fire, which I guess we'll get to.
And that's exactly where I was going, because there are artifacts that have come down to the present day. The sepulcher in Jerusalem, commonly thought by many to be the true sepulcher of Jesus Christ, is very close to a chamber, a room, where an annual event has taken place. For how many years?
Well, it goes back at least 1,700 years. And the reason why it doesn't go all the way back to the first century is because, remember, AD 70, Titus and the crew comes in, they completely slaughter 1 million Jews, they destroy the temple, they burn it, and the Jews are basically kept out of Jerusalem. Then you get the Bar Kokhba revolt, AD 132, AD 135, that period of time. The Romans have had it up to here, and no Jew is allowed under penalty of death in Jerusalem. So when the Romans come in, they go, well, we're going to build a temple of Jupiter, and which desecrates the Temple Mount, which they do. And then they go, well, where's this Jesus? Where was the burial? And the locals know, so they construct the Temple of Venus on what is now the site of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So no one sees Golgotha or the tomb for basically almost 300 years till St. Helen comes in, Constantine's mother. Constantine proclaims Christianity as the state religion. Helena, or Helen, comes down. Where does all this happen? She goes to Jerusalem, make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. And she gets there, well, where is it? Where is Golgotha? Where's the tomb? All the locals know. Local knowledge is priceless. See that Temple of Venus? That's where it was. That's why the Romans constructed a temple. Sure enough, they deconstruct that Temple of Venus, and they find not only Golgotha, but they find the tomb. Remember, anything with blood on it, people go, oh, well, then why would the cross be in the tomb? Because anything with blood on it, from the victim, according to Jewish law, would be buried with the victim. So the cross is there in the tomb, and they construct the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And that's where all of a sudden the holy flame, the holy fire begins to manifest.
We're listening to a fascinating story, which just gets even more fascinating from this point on, but I want to pause and let you know at this point how you can get our magazine, The Prophecy Watcher, and L.A. often contributes to this magazine.
I made the cover!
And we'll be right back.
The world is unraveling right in front of us. Wars, pandemics, economic collapse, artificial intelligence, global surveillance. Things are changing quickly, but you don't have to be caught off guard. At Prophecy Watchers, we believe that God has called us to be a voice in these last days, to warn you of things to come, to educate you on the study of Bible prophecy, and to boldly proclaim the soon return of Jesus. Today, we're inviting you to be a part of our mission through our monthly publication. The Prophecy Watcher isn't just a magazine. It's your trusted news source for the end times, the place tens of thousands of people rely on for their end time news. For your gift of just $50 or more, here's what we'd love to send you. 12 monthly issues of our 4-color magazine, The Prophecy Watcher, in your choice of print or digital. Plus 5 bonus DVDs packed with eye-opening teachings from prophecy experts, including The Mystery of the Rapture, The Great Apostasy and the Revealing of the Antichrist, Holy Fire in Jerusalem, new shocking discoveries surrounding the Shroud of Turin, The Stones Cry Out, The Archaeological Evidence for Jesus, The Mystery of the 10 Kings. Could these be the wealthy and influential oligarchs who control our world today? As an added bonus, we want to send you a one-of-a-kind prophetic treasure, a book that examines every prophecy in the entire Bible. Exploring Bible prophecy from Genesis to Revelation is the work of 2 prophecy legends, Tim LaHaye and Ed Hindson. It's a book you'll find on the shelf of every prophecy expert. This 560-page masterpiece is our bonus gift to you. Every page of the Prophecy Watcher magazine is loaded with answers to the questions you've been asking. The rise of the Antichrist system, the Nephilim of Genesis 6, and the real reason for Noah's flood. The shocking truth about UFOs and government cover-ups. Jewish plans for the Third Temple. The World Economic Forum. The 2030 Global Reset and digital currency. The coming wars of Ezekiel 38 and 39. The Dead Sea Scrolls and their secrets to ancient prophecies. This $120 value can be yours for your gift of $50 with shipping included in the USA. Call us at the number on your screen or visit us online at prophecywatchers.tv. For our international friends, please note that additional shipping fees do apply and all prices listed are in US dollars. The signs are everywhere. The prophetic puzzle is almost complete. And yet, so many are still asleep. That's why the Prophecy Watchers exists, to shine a light in the darkness and help believers understand the lateness of the hour. We believe Jesus is coming soon, and your support helps us take this urgent message to the ends of the earth. Have you heard the news? The Prophecy Watchers team and 23 Bible prophecy experts are coming to the beautiful Embassy Suites in Norman, Oklahoma for the Victory in Jesus Prophecy Conference. Join 1,000 other excited Prophecy Watchers on October 9th through the 12th of this year and say hello to all your favorite prophecy speakers. Gary Stearman, Mondo Gonzales, Billy Crone, Tom Hughes, Bill Koenig, L.A. Marzulli, Steve Quayle, J.B. Hickson, Larry Ollison, Lee Brainerd, and many more. Plus a special concert by our Southern Gospel musical guest, Master's Voice. 4 days of blessing, encouragement, fellowship, and great prophetic teaching await. 23 speakers, 44 messages. It's America's largest prophecy conference. Visit our website at victoryinjesusprophecyconference.com for all the exciting details.
And we're back with L.A. Marzulli. We had been talking about the sepulcher, the tomb, or the edifice where the Holy Sepulcher is thought to be buried. Many experts now have said this actually is the tomb of Christ, and very close to this tomb there is a chamber, a room, that goes back how far?
Well, that is the edicule right there, and in that edicule is where the slab is. Recent archaeological discoveries show that, and this is 2025, that they found traces of a garden around the edicule, which means this ties right back into the biblical narrative. A new tomb and a garden, the whole thing. That's it. And what people, when you go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, remember, it's been razed a couple of times. It was destroyed by the Muslims and then redone. So Golgotha is here and the sepulchre is here. You have to walk up or down. And when you go down, you're in Jerusalem, it's an old quarry. I mean, the archaeological evidence points to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre as being, the burial. And I get it, you walk in and it's extremely ostentatious from an evangelical point of view. People are, weeping and kissing the stones and all this other stuff, and there's icons and lots of gold and all this. And for us, we're kind of going like, why did they do this? Well, it may be misplaced, but it's there because that is, truly believe it is the site. I want to circle back real quick to the sudarium because we just basically touched on it. The sudarium of Oviedo, the napkin that's folded up, is in the tomb. Why? Because Jesus is hanging on the cross. And out of respect for the dead, when they go and take him down, they wrap the head with this cloth. They wrap the head. It's just not a little, they wrap the head and then they take him off. Now he's in the tomb. They unwrap that because that's not part of a shroud. And they fold it up and put it next to the body or near the body, near where the body lay. So you've got the sudarium. We know that the sudarium of Oviedo has been in Oviedo, Spain since at least the 7th century. So now it's really old. And we also know, and you could only do this in modernity. This just is astounding to me. Go back 200 years ago, you couldn't do what I'm about to say. That the sudarium of Oviedo, when you overlay it against the face on the man of the shroud, there are 120 points of congruency, which means that the sudarium, which has been in Oviedo, Spain since the 7th century, was on the same God, the same man who is in the shroud. And of course, we believe it's Jesus. That's who it is. It's got to be. Absolutely, in my opinion, that's who it is. So 120 points of congruency between the sudarium of Oviedo and the Shroud of Turin. Unbelievable. Now, unbelievable.
Let's get to the story of the resurrection. There's a group of people that goes back many, many centuries who celebrate the resurrection of Christ in a very special way. And that's what a lot of Holy Shroud, Holy Fire is about.
Yes, it is. And what's interesting, and before I touch on that, I want to give, people go, Holy Fire, well, that's not biblical. Oh, yes, it is. So Abraham cuts a covenant with God, but God, the Lord, Yahweh, Jehovah, puts Abraham into a deep sleep. All the animal carcasses are there. They're all lined up. They're about to cut a covenant. But who goes in? Who goes in? Well, it's not Jesus. It's not God the Father. There's this flame that's there, flaming torch. Remember, the people that are recording this, and it's in the Torah, they're trying to get their head around what they're really seeing. So that flame goes through. Moses, skip centuries later to Moses. Moses sees a burning bush that does not burn. What the heck is that? You see the way we skip over these things? But that's miraculous. That's take off your sandals, Moses. This is holy ground. Then we go to the pillar of flame. What's that? That guides and guards the Israelites on their journey. Finally, on the day of Pentecost, what appears over the heads of the apostles, the people in the upper room? Tongues of flame. It's there. In my opinion, it's the Holy Spirit. So it's just like, and this is something that Russ Brault says in the film. Isn't it just like God to take something that's been manifesting for 1,700 years and completely hide it until now? I never heard of the Holy Fire until Bob Orr called me and said, L.A., have you ever heard of the Holy Fire? And that led to the production of this film. And it's been going on for 1,700 years.
Now, the Holy Fire takes place on a certain date every year, a certain group of people, and it involves, again, the celebration of the resurrection, but in a way that we can hardly grapple with. How does this happen? What is it? Tell us about it.
The patriarch, the Orthodox patriarch, goes in. He's got candles. And according to his handwritten testimony, what they see is they say some prayers that have been handed down for centuries, and all of a sudden, this blue flame begins to undulate over the slab, which turns into a pillar of fire. And by the way, there are windows outside the edicule that you can peer into and see all this. No cameras are allowed, but you can see it happen. And then he comes out, his candles are lit, and it's what you see here. It's passed throughout the faithful. And here's what's interesting, and this has been scientifically proven, that for the first 10 minutes, the fire from the holy fire does not burn. And in our film, we show this woman going like, holding it right, and she's got a sweater on. I mean, if that was fire, her arm would be, the sweater would and burst into flames. We don't see that. She's like this. Giulio Fanti takes his candles and goes like this underneath his face. So, what is it? We believe that the holy fire created this. It doesn't burn, it just scorches. And that's what the image. So there's also a Russian scientist who was in the edicule.
This has been going on for how long?
1700 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is it just now coming to light?
It's just,
why are we just now
right?
talking about this?
That's my point. Why are we just now in the West hearing of it? Because the great schism happened between the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church. It happened, that great schism, and so the Pope, the Catholic Pope, declared, that's not a miracle, nothing to see here. So it was lost, and yet it appears every year for the last 1700 years. So now we're hearing it. Why? Maybe because we're in the last days, and maybe because the Lord is giving people who don't know him a scientific, forensic evidence of the greatest event in history, the resurrection of Jesus.
And this is a story that is validated. That is to say, and by the way, Holy Shroud, Holy Fire, I've got to say it again, is one of the best productions that
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that.
That L.A. has ever put together. And it'll hold your attention, I guarantee it, moment by moment. And you will be presented with a story that at first you'll say, I'm not sure about that. But just listen to what he has to say on this film, and you are going to be, I think, thrilled at the way it integrates. This story is integrated with the story of the Shroud. It's really one and the same story.
It is. What I think it does with the Holy Fire, it gives an explanation. And Russ Brault, again, he's a professional synodologist. He's been studying the Shroud as well as Joe Marino. They've all written books. Russ tours, and Joe now heads up Shroud.com, which is the late Barry Schwartz's website. But what it does offer is an explanation of how the image was produced on the Shroud. We also, from our Watchers series, Dame Isabel Pixick, she passed away also, a world-class muralist. Her paintings hang in the Vatican, but she's also a particle physicist. And she gives this explanation of how the Shroud was produced, which is just mind-boggling.
Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. Let's pause so you can find out how you can get your copy.
The Shroud of Turin stands alone as one of the Bible's most controversial mysteries. Who saves a burial cloth with an invisible image on it for 800 years? It must have been extremely valuable to someone, passed down from generation to generation. Is it a Catholic relic? Is it a fraud? And why can't we duplicate it with lasers and our advanced technology? Did Jesus leave behind proof of his resurrection for the doubting Thomases of the world? After many years of study, we believe that the image on the linen cloth is none other than Jesus. But how did it get there? We've often called it resurrection power, but recently we were stunned to discover what we believe is the divine source of that image. It's the subject of L.A.'s film, Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. For 1700 years, this event has been taking place in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, where many scholars believe Jesus rose from the dead. What took place is hard to believe until you see the picture of the actual plasma fire being passed down from person to person without anyone being burned. Is this the fire of God, the burning bush, the flaming tongues at Pentecost? You must see these images on L.A.'s DVD for yourself. It's available for your gift of $30 or more with shipping included in the USA. It comes with an extra bonus DVD, Holy Fire in Jerusalem, an interview with longtime Shroud researcher Russ Briault, one of the world's leading authorities on the Shroud. We also have an exciting package that includes Russ's book, Shroud Encounter, along with a third DVD that answers the critics of the Shroud. The book and all 3 DVDs can be yours for your gift of $55 or more, with free shipping in the USA. Call the number on your screen and ask for the Holy Fire in Jerusalem package, or visit us online at prophecywatchers.tv. For our international friends, we'd like to let you know that LA's DVD is available on our on-demand website, so you can purchase this digitally and there's no shipping required. Wouldn't it be just like Jesus to leave behind a receipt of the resurrection? One day he may ask you that same question he asked his disciples: "Who do you say that I am?" Be sure you know the right answer. Make sure you have a personal relationship with that crucified man today. He gave his life for you so you can live forever.
And we're back with L.A. Marzulli, and we've got about 3 minutes to wrap this story up. And it's an exciting story. I'm kind of a skeptic. You know, when I hear something new, or when in particular, when it applies to the biblical history of this planet, I'm very, very careful with facts. And when I hear something like this, my first reaction is, and was, by the way, to say, oh,
and I was too. I was going, what?
What's going on here? And I think that you make a very good case.
Isn't it interesting how in these last of the last days, the Lord is revealing things to us? And I just find that incredible. And I'll close by saying this. This is forensic evidence. I can't stress this enough. Forensic evidence of the greatest event in all of history, the resurrection of the God-man, Jesus of Nazareth. Remember, 1898 is the first photograph. 1898 is when, for the first time in 2,000 years,
you know, it's fairly interesting that 1898 marked the birthday of Israel.
There you go. Gee, what a coincidence.
What a coincidence could that? I'm sure it didn't happen on purpose.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Amazing.
These are exciting times.
They certainly are, Gary.
And I'm very, very pleased that we can offer Holy Shroud, Holy Fire, because it'll make you stop and think. And the production qualities on this film are also extremely meticulous. There won't be a point in the film where you say, I wish I could see that better. I'm not sure about it, because it's all put together in a way that will leave an impression on you. And I'm sure it will. It did on me.
Thank you, sir. High praise. Thank you.
L.A. Marzulli, you've got to keep on keeping on.
I certainly will try.
As the saying goes, because the things that the Lord is leading you into are very, very exciting.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that. Thank you.
And pray for L.A., by the way, in his work, that he'll produce yet another story for all of us to enjoy and to learn from. And we'll see you soon again, right?
Thank you, sir. Yes, absolutely.
I'm Gary Stearman, and this is Prophecy Watchers. Hey, you keep watching. We are